Welcome back everybody to Forza Horizon 5, and today we're taking a look at the 2010 Nissan Tsuru. Now if you're wondering why this looks like a car that is nowhere near, in the same kind of style as a lot of other 2010 cars, well that's because it is basically based on the third generation Nissan Sunny, which started production in 1990 and ended in 1994, but this was built in Mexico from 1992 until 2017. Most popular car in Mexico as well from 1997 to 2011, while around 1.8 million of these were produced over its entire 25-year lifetime. Mostly used by lower income families because it's such a cheap car to buy and run and all that, because it's such a simple car, but also heavily used by taxi companies as well because of those reasons, and because it's a reasonably practical car as well. So yeah, not much of a looker, I'll say that, but as far as early 90s cars go, it's not the worst looking thing ever. Certainly looks better than the Nissan Sunny that it is based on, and yeah, it's got a reasonable amount of practicality as well. It's got a decent sized boot, as you can see, and got good room in the back for your passengers, although there is a little bit of exposed metal by the looks of things down there. And yeah, it's got a decent interior at the front. Very, very basic. As you can see, you only got wind down windows. You've only got 3 dials. You've got your fuel, you got your temperature, and you got your speedometer. So no rev counter, even though it is a manual. And yeah, very basic amenities. You've got a heater and blower. Looks like you've got some recirculation there. You got your hazards. You got maybe a heated rear window. But yeah, nothing major whatsoever. But that just means that there's very little in the way to go wrong. And yeah, you wouldn't sell 1.8 million cars if the cars were deeply unreliable, which I doubt they were. And another reason for its lack of unreliability is because of its engine, which is a 1.6 litre inline 4, producing 105 horsepower and 102 pounds-feet of torque. Now I know that isn't all that much, but as you can see, it's a twin cam, so it revs really rather nicely, and it's got 16 valves. And on top of that, it doesn't weigh all that much either, so you've not got a huge amount of weight to lug around, as it only weighs 2,086 pounds. It is also front wheel drive, so that's another reason why it's got such good rear practicality, because you've got no gear tunnel running through the middle of the car. So yeah, it's a really rather practical, usable, and yeah, highly kind of somewhat charming car because of its simplicity. But I have no doubt that this has been a highly requested car, because it has been. No doubt, because this car is a Mexican built car, and this game is set in Mexico, so I imagine that is why it has been so highly requested. But I'm all for a car like this being in the game, because it is, like I said, a everyday basic kind of vehicle, and these kind of vehicles can be fun to drive. To see how fun though, we'll get out onto the open road and see what it can do. Right, here we are at the drag strip, so let's see what this car can do in a straight line, and then we'll take it around the track. So yeah, it's actually got a pretty high revving engine for something that is, supposed to be fairly economy based, fairly cheap to run and buy. But yeah, it's revving up to nearly 7,000 RPM, which is respectable, and it's certainly nowhere near as slow as you might expect for something that only has 105 horsepower. As you can see, we're still comfortably gaining speed, and we're now breached 90 miles an hour, and nearly 95 before we hit the speed camera, which is fairly good for a car of this amount of power. So yeah, but it's by no means no speed freak by any means, so if you're expecting anything regarding that, then yeah, you're not really going to get that kind of experience. But if you're like me and you're into your slower cars, you're into your slower kind of races and the like, this is right up your street, and it is right up mine as well. So yeah, this was so popular because it was meant to replace the Volkswagen Beetle, and yeah, certainly a more practical and more safer car than that car would ever be. But because of its lack of airbags, lack of ABS, that's why the car discontinued production in 2017. Just wasn't, able to keep up with regulations and more modern cars. And yeah, this was dethroned from its most popular, the most popular car in Mexico by the Volkswagen Jetta from 2011. So that's yeah, another reason why it would have been discontinued, because a far more newer car was available. So yeah, they're the stats. So as you can see, 60% weight up front, which is obviously quite a lot in terms of bias, but because it doesn't weigh all that much anyway, that is still not a huge amount of weight up front. And they're the stats. So yeah, nothing remarkable, but I have seen far worse stats on far more modern cars in some regards. So yeah, especially when you take it into context of the kind of power that they have, whereas we don't have all that much power, so, and we don't have all that much weight either. So even though the braking isn't the greatest, it's yeah, at the end of the day, only got a minimum amount of weight to slow down. So yeah, not much in the way of momentum. So yeah, it's overall, it's about the context of a vehicle in terms of its stats. If this car was a 400, 500 horsepower car and it only had 2.5 braking, then I'd be concerned, but at only 105, it's nothing to be really all that worried about. So yeah, let's see what the engine sounds like first, and then we'll talk about it some more. So yeah, by no means the best sounding engine in the world. Certainly at points sounds like a bunch of bees in a jar. So it's very, very noisy and buzzy and not very nice to listen to at high volumes, but it's not the worst sounding engine either, and it at least does sound like an engine rather than some cars nowadays which sound like turbo, you know, like especially the turbocharged cars which sound like vacuum cleaners or anything like that. So yeah, but still not the best sounding engine, and the gearbox is not particularly great either. They're very, very long ratios, as you can see. It is at least a manual, and it is at least a 5-speed manual, but yeah, the ratios are a little bit too long for a car with this lacking amount of power. It's not really keeping the horsepower and the torque in the optimum range. But still, 0 to 60 time is not as bad as you might expect either. 0 to 60 is dealt with in 9.319 seconds, so it is at least below 10 seconds, which not every car, quite frankly, like this is. And 0 to 100 is dealt with in 27.356 seconds, and it will go to a top speed of 123 miles an hour, which is really rather respectable for a car of this lacking amount of power. So overall, the performance is good. Handling wise, well, yeah, the brakes aren't particularly brilliant, but because it doesn't weigh all that much and you're not exactly going the quickest ever, it's yeah, the brakes aren't too much of an issue. What is an issue is the fact that it understeers at times quite badly, and you also feel the car struggling to put the power down at times. It feels like one wheel is spinning the power all the way, and the other wheel isn't really doing anything at all. So that is a little bit of an issue, but it's still a fun enough car to drive given what it is. And yeah, I'm really, really liking the fact that I put this in the game. It's a complete antithesis to what is going on with the current Forza Motorsport game, which is adding race car after race car. 3 of their cars for the current car pass month are race cars, only 1 is a road car. Whereas here, with, you know, this game, we're getting not only a new car pack, which we'll be looking at the 3 of the cars in that, we're also getting cars like this, which are, you know, far more unique, far more interesting to look at and race. So yeah, get out there and get there if this car, if you haven't already. It costs you 20 points on the festival playlist to get, so it doesn't take very long to get it all. And if you so are interested into getting cars on this game that look like taxis, then you can also add the taxi edition on the top of the roof if you so wish. So yeah, it's well worth getting, and yeah, more like this, quite frankly. Nonetheless, so thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.